Seems to be working now. All right, there we go.
Got it.
Okay.
And can everyone please, Strat, can you please put our guests on mute for now?
Huh? All right, let me go get you some. No, it's actually been a good couple hours. Yeah.
No one is coming in. We can go ahead and get started, I think.
Yes, Strat, can you put our guests on mute, please? I can hear some background.
I'm getting
Thank you,
that done
Marissa.
right now. Yeah.
Because we've got a lot of information for everybody, and I want our guests to be able to hear it. Okay, everybody, welcome to today's show, continuing our month of Cybersecurity Awareness Month series. My name is John Young. I'm a volunteer with AARP California, and I'm a fraud fighter with the California Fraud Watch Network. What do? Well, I teach anti-fraud classes to people in our age range. I'm a senior myself, and it's one of my not only favorite things, but I feel like this is my duty to help everyone become aware of what's going on. Now, our Fraud Watch Network, it's all about helping communities avoid scams and frauds through information education. We do events, and we're going to talk about some of the resources that you're going to be able to access. Now, this is an interactive conversation, but I would appreciate it if everyone went on mute so that they don't overtalk the other people. Right now, I can see that we have a lot of interested people here. So we're going to ask you questions about your own thoughts and experiences. And you can enter questions into the chat so that when we break into our sections after each slide, you're going to be able to talk about, what has been on your mind. Now, but first, let me set the stage for our conversation. The reality is this: for many of us, our lives are increasingly lived online. We connect with family and friends on social media. We work online. We play online. We bank online. We shop online. Amazon, all of these retailers, they basically are so convenient for us to use. And at the same time, we're constantly hearing of one major data breach or scam after another in which our personal and sensitive information's been stolen, it's been compromised. So what can we do to stay safe online? Well, let me give you a little my background. I've been in this business for 40 years before I retired from IBM after 22 years with them as a cybersecurity expert. And I'd also like to welcome a fellow expert in cybersecurity. His name is Dave Marrow. Dave's got over 35 years experience in cybersecurity investigations and responding to incidents when these happen. He's had a wide-ranging military career, and he served for 12 years as a special agent for the Air Force, their Office of Special Investigations. Now, he specialized in computer-related crime. He's also headed the cyber response and threat intelligence for major US banks, and he's testified on cybersecurity issues before Congress twice. And Dave's also been an expert witness in court on numerous occasions. And I know from experience that you cannot testify in court unless they have said you're one of the best in our industry. So basically, Dave and I did a episode last week, and this week we're going to talk about cryptocurrency. Dave, I'm very excited to be talking with you again today. And can you please let our audience know what you're going to share with us today on cryptocurrency?
Sure. Thanks, John. I'm glad to be back. Well, today, folks, we're going to talk about cryptocurrency, or as it's technically known as digital currency. Now, as we did last week, I'm going to have a few slides to kind of set the ground rules, if you will, get everybody on the more or less the same plane about understanding. And then we'll start talking questions and answers. And occasionally throughout the slides, we may pause and see if anybody has any questions. So if you do, put them in the chat, and we'll try to answer some questions kind of as we go. First of all, most people our age are kind of leery of anything like cryptocurrency or what they don't understand. In fact, a lot of us follow some of the investment gurus that say, don't invest in anything you don't understand. And so we want to talk a little bit about what is cryptocurrency or digital currency. The common example of digital currency is Bitcoin. And it was developed really as kind of a replacement for traditional money like dollars and cents for certain types of transactions. It was trying to make it, the developers made it so that they were trying to take out the middlemen, take out the banks, if you will, take out the anybody who is between the person who wants to exchange the money and somebody who wants to receive it for something. And it's all online. It's all done through what's called wallets, which are bought and sold usually on what's called exchanges. But the problem with it is it's not backed by any government. It's not backed by anything, really. And the values constantly go up and down. If you recall when several years ago, Bitcoin, for example, was trading, many hundreds of dollars per Bitcoin. And people were, on paper, billionaires. And then the price just plummeted, and now, and suddenly they're wiped out. So that's one of the concerning things to me about digital currency or cryptocurrency is there's really no backing. Our paper money has got some backing of, the U.S. government. There's also very little regulation or oversight of anything to do with cryptocurrency. A truism about technology, and John and I deal with this as cybersecurity folks our entire lives, has been that the technology changes far faster than laws and regulations and oversight. So that this technology, we're still having various government agencies fighting over who's in charge, who's going to regulate this and what kind of regulation needs to be done. And that's not just here, that's in other countries also. So it's very hard for you to the common consumer to understand what is and is not true. Many people view it as an investment vehicle as well as a currency. It's gaining popularity as a currency. Car companies now accept it as I think you can buy a Tesla with cryptocurrency. Some of the big Amazon, some of the big online retailers take crypto as a digital currency, as well as regular money. But many people look at it as an investment vehicle. You buy low, sell high kind of thing, and so that's where a lot of people are increasingly losing money and having problems. One of the biggest things about cryptocurrency, though, is that it was when it first came on the market, it was thought to be totally anonymous. Now, that's not technically true anymore, but there are ways to trace it, but it really takes a lot of time and it really takes a lot of effort. But the anonymity is a big factor about it. You can have things in your digital wallet and trade it with somebody else, and it's kind of hard to track that trading of money. And that's one of the things the fraudsters have started to take into account and start to take advantage of. Let's do the next slide. So what do we see with cryptocurrency, the various types of scams we have out of here? Well, the most obvious one, since we're talking about them, is investment as the phony investment opportunities. And there are various different ways, but that this is, in fact, there's a big trial going on right now for one of the CEOs of one of the Bitcoin companies who was an exchange that was also an investment company, and they were commingling funds, and it's a big mess. But again, we're still finding our way through the legal and regulatory morass that is cyber currency. So, but all the people that invested in that lost a lot of their money. And that happens quite a bit. You know, you'll invest money, especially in the exchanges, if you've never heard of it. I mean, there are some exchanges that are pretty well known, but there's others that aren't. There's others that just pop up, people invest in it, and then suddenly they go away or go bankrupt, and then they lose all their money. So the investment opportunities is one thing. Crypto has become a real leverageable technology to make other scams work easier or better. One of the ones that you'll hear about that has a horrible name, but it's called pig butchering. And we all have probably heard about romance scams where somebody befriends you online or you know, and cultivates you or grooms you for several months or longer and gains your confidence, and then they start asking for money. Well, pig butchering took that and kind of adopted it. The scam for pig butchering is you'll meet somebody online. They'll tell you, you know, they'll befriend you. They'll tell you they're your friend. They may even be, you know, start off as a romance scam. But somewhere along the line, they'll talk about, hey, I'm making a ton of money in investing in crypto. You need to do it, and I'll help you. And it doesn't have to be a romance type thing. You know, I'll help you. And here's the exchange I use. Go online to it and let's buy some crypto together. And they'll buy a few buy a few coins, you know, for not a whole lot of money. And then suddenly you'll see this huge return because they control the exchange. And what it shows you, it's actually a false exchange, but you're giving money to their crypto wallets. It's basically like giving money to their wallet in physical world. So over a period of time, they'll gain your confidence that you are getting better, and that, you know, they'll talk to you about how great you're doing, and you need to invest some more to see some real returns. And that's the fattening the pig up, right? And the butchering part comes when they basically suddenly stop responding, or when you want to get your money out or some of your money out, you know, they won't respond to your emails. They won't respond to your messages. The exchange doesn't respond if you email them or text them or whatever the way they contact you. And one day you go on there and the exchange isn't there anymore. That's how pig butchering works, is they basically fatten you up as the victim. And then they basically butcher you by taking all your Bitcoin away and just folding their tents in the night and stealing away, and you never hear from them again. As I said, they're similar to romance scams, and romance scams have been one of the most impacted other types of fraud that's impacted by cryptocurrency as a medium of exchange that gives the fraudster anonymity. That once you put money in their crypto wallets, whether you know you're doing that or not, that money's gone for all intents and purposes. You're not going to get it back. And so they like that anonymity. They like that instant ability to get the money back, as opposed to waiting for a wire transfer or the mail or something like that. We also see a lot of the celebrity giveaways and celebrity imposters, you know, whether it's Keanu Reeves or you know, there's several others who are, you know, will get on there and say, I love this crypto exchange, get on there. You know, it's not really them, but they, you know, they'll make you think it's them, and they'll be pushing it, or I want to give away some money, you know, give me, you know, two Bitcoins and I'll give you 500 Bitcoins back from my foundation. So we're seeing all kinds of other types of traditional scams using Bitcoin. The fake exchanges is another one. There's nothing that says anybody can't set up a website that says they're an exchange. And there probably is a kid or two out there on the dark web that allows them to do that. That's already got the websites all made. They just have to put the names on it. It looks like the people that are using are making money and investing. It's kind of a Ponzi scheme, because they take the money in to pay out other investors to make them think they're doing better. So they invest more and more money. But the rug pull is where they close up in the middle of the night and go away, and nobody has their money. Finally, and this is the big thing I'm starting to see on the call center lines when I do my calls to fraud victims, is that as it's an anonymous payment method, and you know, if you've been paying, been with us a while in the Fraud Watch Network, we always talk about gift cards. Don't pay anything with gift cards. If anybody asks you to pay with gift cards, run away. That's becoming somewhat supplanted now, or replaced, or augmented by crypto as an anonymous payment method. And because
All right, Dave, well, you've covered quite a bit of information. The beautiful thing about our Cybersecurity Awareness Month is we have time to talk about this in a little bit of depth and in a simple manner, so that our audience is able to really understand what some of these big concepts are all about. Now, before we go to any audience questions, I'd like to say, put your questions into the chat, and we're going to take a couple of questions. Now, before we do that though, Dave, I've got a couple of things. Two of my friends were scammed on crypto. One of them is actually a cybersecurity expert, and he's gone on shows to talk about how he was scammed.
Mm-hmm.
So that just shows, if a cybersecurity expert can be scammed, then anybody can be scammed. The second friend of mine got scammed because they started following a person on social media who seemed to have a very legitimate background and was always talking about how much that people made, and then people were testifying on social media about how much they made with this person, and turns out that it was all fake. They did have thousands of legitimate followers on social media, but when they got to the heart of the matter, the person that was running it was a total fraud.
Yep.
And they lost, the first person in cybersecurity lost over $20,000. The second person lost $6,000 in 1 week. So getting to that, Dave, with what you said, I hear a lot of horror stories personally. One of the things I also have heard is our age group doesn't really fall for it. And you touched on this a little bit, that we don't invest in things we don't know for the most part. But can you tell us what's the real story here, as far as, have you seen these on the rise in the 60 and over age group crypto scams?
Well, I see, yes, they're rising, I think, across all age groups. Remember, the numbers that we see are basically 5 to 10% of the ones that actually occur because of the reporting hesitation. And I see the same thing, but when I do my call center, the fraud network call center hotline to help victims, I seem to get a lot of the crypto type scams. And I've talked to people who have lost several $100,000, and because they go all in, they're convinced they're going to make, be the next Warren Buffett. And so they basically throw all their money into crypto, and basically then it goes away. So absolutely, it's a tool that the fraudsters are using, and they're increasingly adopting it, as they do every tool. And so we're going to see more and more crypto variations of scams, I believe, in the future, because just like gift cards will slowly probably phase out as a medium for somebody paying a ransom or whatever they pay for the fraud. Victim-wise, don't have to go anywhere to buy a gift card. They just now they just go to a machine and take their money out of the ATM, and then go to a crypto machine, and they can deposit it, and it's gone. So I think
now one of the things. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
You want to add something?
No,
well, one of the things that I've seen is, they call it fear of missing out. It seems like it's such a great opportunity that we don't want to find out from some other friend, because a lot of times it's a friend, and it may even be an only online friend that we don't really know, who recommends these opportunities that turn out to be a phony investment crypto scam. So I'd like to say to our audience, you're not missing out on anything with crypto. one of the things that's really amazing, and David touched on this, is that the crypto goes up and down in value. Now, the best known is Bitcoin. Okay, in the last year alone, okay, Bitcoin, I've seen the high at $67,000 per Bitcoin. I've seen the low at $16,000 per Bitcoin. I just looked at it yesterday and it was right around $27,000 per Bitcoin. So would anybody invest in a stock that has that kind of volatility? And this is the number one most legitimate crypto coin that you can get. And to put that into perspective, there at the last count was over 22,000 different types of cryptocurrencies. So it's almost beyond belief. It started out with Bitcoin, but since that, in the last 10, 12 years, it's gone to thousands and thousands and thousands of different cryptocurrencies, and most of them can be considered almost like penny stocks, right, Dave? Where they're kind of worthless. So I would say to our audience, really be careful. If someone in your family, a younger person in your family, is really hot on a crypto investment and wants you to invest, you've got to think not once, not twice, not 3 times, but maybe 10 times about doing it. No matter how enthusiastic they are, it can be a real problem. Now, another thing you had talked about, Dave, was why are cryptocurrencies not backed by governments?
Well, as I said, it's a new technology by comparison. I mean, money's been around for, millennia, right? But so doing electronic currency that really has nothing physical that you can hold on to is something that's just come around in the last 20, 25 years. And so they're working on regulation right now. The Federal Trade Commission is fighting with the SEC and a couple of other government agencies in the US on who should be regulating cryptocurrency and exchanges and all that. But again, as with a lot of stuff that's happening in our government these days, it's going nowhere fast. And so it's not regulated because it's new. And like the legal system, the regulatory system, as we said before, takes a really long time to adapt to new technologies. And they're always, 2 or 3 steps behind because technology changes, in days or months sometimes, and the legal system and regulatory system takes years to change. So that's the main problem. It's just too new, and it changes a lot. I mean, cryptocurrency and exchanges and things of today are totally different than what they were 10 years ago, and it's the availability to the common consumer had moved from the mostly tech geeks like us, like you and I, who wanted to play with it and thought it was kind of cool and started doing it, has moved to where anybody can go to. I mean, machines to take cash and turning into cryptocurrency, and get you a wallet, and you can put cryptocurrency, what's value of your cash into your wallet, are available at grocery stores. They're available, at Targets and other places like that around the country, and so that makes it a lot more prevalent and still not regulated.
Now we're going to go to questions in a second, but I wanted to pull 2 things together that you had discussed. One was the trial right now of Samuel Bankman-Fried for FTX, probably the most well-known crypto exchange in history. And the second is fake exchanges with the rug pull. Now, Samuel Bankman-Fried is currently on trial. And to give people an idea of what can happen, FTX was not a fake exchange. It was a legitimate exchange, but almost within a week, $30 billion disappeared.
Yep.
So that is the amount of money that we're talking about. And he was considered the next Warren Buffett, as you had said, and Bill Gates and and all these other people were kind of talking to him as if he was the next Steve Jobs in this. But if you can elaborate a little on the fake exchanges, you said something interesting about how someone can just buy a fake website that is a fake exchange and then just put in their own information. And do you have any numbers on what it would cost for something like that to show how common it is?
No, I haven't got any numbers really to take, but I would imagine it's pretty cheap, because what happens is, as the technology or a different type of fraud, a new type of fraud comes, emerges, the bad guys are not far behind in creating. In this case, it would be a kit that you can buy on the dark web for, some amount of probably cryptocurrency, that would allow you to, put up a website pretty quickly, and it looks and functions, because a website is not just a bunch of slides like our PowerPoint. A website has a bunch of code behind it that is doing those things that when you click on a link that takes it to the other website, or opens a document, or does whatever. So they would have to have the capability to have all that, at least crudely able to make it look convincing that it's a real website and not something that's just kind of fake, because a fake one would stand out real fast if it didn't have workable links and things like that. So, but the kits can be made pretty quickly and then customized. So, you get the crude kit, if you will, and then the websites, you put your own name on it, you decide whatever you want to call things, and it gives you the fraudster the availability to set the prices, to allow a little bit of money to be taken out by people to kind of gain their confidence, to set a limit that says, you can take out $1,000 worth of your cash, worth of your crypto, but you can't take out $10,000. And, when too many people try to start doing that, that's when they fold the tent and leave. So I don't know how much it would be. I know there's probably kits out there, because there's kits of all kinds of other scams out there that are web-based. So I'm sure there's kits out there on the dark web.
Yeah, you've talked about the dark web a few times. I just wanted to point out to our audience that there's almost an industry going on that acts like they're a legitimate industry in their organization and their desire to make money. I mean, they've got a structure and they've got all these different ways to do things behind the scenes. So can you just give a quick definition of dark web, because people hear it all the time?
Yeah, the dark web first started by the government, by the Navy, I think, as a way for people who were in oppressive political regimes to communicate securely and anonymously with each other. But the crooks, as they do, got hold of it and developed really has what become a kind of a second internet, if you will. And I have a slide in my presentations that has an iceberg. And, what we see is the part of the iceberg above ground or above the water, right? We all know that 5/8 of a mass of an iceberg is under the water. And if you think of all kinds of internet capabilities as the iceberg, the part we see is the top, whatever it is, 4/8 or 5/8 or 3/8 or whatever. And the stuff under the water is the dark web. You can't just join it. You have to have software called a special browser called a Tor browser, an Onion browser, and you go to what's called a node, which is a specific website where you can enter it. It's like your door to your cellar in the old houses some people have. The only one way in and out of the coal cellar is through the door. And so you go in and out of these nodes or these websites, and that's how you get into the dark web. And there's all kinds of stuff that goes on the dark web. Some of it's illegitimate. Some of it is NGOs communicating with folks behind, like in North Korea and places like that. But other things are out there too, and there's books written on what's available on the dark web. And a lot of it is hacking and fraud tools that you can buy very cheap, as well as identities, as well as, that's where a lot of our personal information that gets stolen in breaches winds up, is on the dark web. You can buy a social security number and a name for like $5, and, a passport number and a whole bunch of information about one person called a FULZ, F-U-L-Z, is, your name, your social, credit card numbers, Medicare numbers, all kinds of information about you, $150, and that's your full identity online. And so that's the kind of stuff that goes on. Again, it's a very anonymous. Law enforcement has a hard time getting into it and running cases on it because it's so tight, and it's a big challenge. So the dark web is kind of, I call it in my presentations, the bad neighborhood in your town where you don't want to go.
What a great description of it, Dave. I hope our audience got a lot out of that, because I've never really heard the dark web explained in such a fashion that is easy to understand for so many people in layman's terms. So thank you, Dave. That was great. Now, we've got people working behind the scenes at AARP on our cybersecurity presentation. So I'm going to ask Strat Maloma right now what questions we have in chat, Strat, from our people in the audience. What do they have for Dave? We're going to take a couple questions right now.
Let me take myself off mute first. Bradley Johnson, I'm going to invite you to come on and ask your question about the legitimacy of investment opportunities. To come on, take yourself off mute and ask your question, Bradley. Bradley not on with us anymore. Okay, let's look for another question. Okay, I'm going to invite, I believe it's Cosette Lee. She has a question about crypto and credit cards. Would you care to take yourself off mute and ask your question?
Hello.
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 Hello, my name is Cynthia Lee, and I have a question about how to buy this crypto. Actually, I have two. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. Actually, I have two questions. The first one is, how do you buy this cryptocurrency? I mean, do they use credit cards? Do they use bank checking accounts? So how do you physically buy it? And then secondly, how does this money grow? I mean, why would you give somebody your money and get this fake money? I call it fake money, but it's not. It's a cryptocurrency. It's computerized like money back. I mean, so how are they investing your money? So you give them this money and they invest it. So that's my question. Those are my two questions. How do you buy it, and how does the money grow?
Well, there are several ways you can buy cryptocurrency. You can go to what is called the exchange, and there are several, very large commercial exchanges that have been around for a while, and they're pretty solid in terms of not folding up and moving in the middle of the night. But FTX, unfortunately, a year ago or two would probably have been one that got cited. So you got to be careful there. But you can actually go to their website, establish an account, get yourself a digital wallet. And a digital wallet is basically, to you, the user, if you think about it as a regular wallet, it's identified by a really long string of characters, letters, numbers, and characters. And I mean, like we say passwords are 12 characters long. These are like 25 or 30 or 40 characters long. And that's your identifier for your wallet. And so you go to the exchange, you sign up for it, you may pay a little fee, and then they'll issue you a wallet, and then you can wire them money. You can credit card, you can hook that account in many exchanges to a credit card, your Visa card or your MasterCard, and they can then reach out. Some even do your bank account, where you can actually put your bank information in there. I would not advise that, but still you can do that. Recently, in the last several years, as I said, there's been a huge expansion of the capability to do it in machines, just like ATMs, and some of the victims I talk to are told by the fraudster, now go to your ATM, draw out $5,000, or go to your bank, draw out $5,000 in cash. I'm going to send you a QR code. Remember, one of those little squiggly square codes on your phone or an email, and you go to one of these machines, and there's one at Walgreens Drugs at 5th and Main in your town, and you go there, you put the QR code in front of the little camera, and that establish what the QR code is that he's emailed you is his crypto wallet number. And then you feed the money in just like you feed it, when you're making a deposit of cash in an ATM, you just feed the money in, and theoretically it's going into your account as you do it. What it's doing is going into his account. So that's another way you can do it. You can also buy it. I think in some cases you can buy it through, even some commercial banks are trying to figure out how to deal with that, because financial institutions are thrown for a loop with cryptocurrency too. And so they see a very lucrative market. They just don't know how to get their arms around it. And so some banks, I think, are playing with the idea of allowing their customers to invest in or get cryptocurrency. How do they get it out? Well, same way, in reverse. They don't really have machines, I don't think, that spit out crypto, spit out cash like an ATM now. But usually what you're supposed to do is, you have your account on the exchange that you use, you sign into it and say, I want to cash out $100 worth of Bitcoin or $1,000 worth of Bitcoin. They will cash it on the exchange for you, put whatever account you've given them, deposit that money electronically into your account. They'll transfer it, or they'll just send a regular EFT, we call it electronic funds transfer in the banking world, to that to your account at your bank. That's how it's supposed to work. In many cases, obviously, as we said, it doesn't.
Thank you.
Okay, I saw Bradley Johnson appear to unmute himself, and that was who you wanted to speak for his question, right, Strat? So Bradley, can you please ask your question?
Bradley, you there?
I don't think he unmuted himself.
Yeah.
Okay, Strat, we need to pick someone else, and you're welcome, Cynthia.
Let's go to Deborah. She's got a question about wallet types. Deborah, please come on and ask your question.
Thank you for taking me. And my question, although after hearing previous conversations, you may have already answered it. My question was, can a digital wallet that you use by a bank such as Wells Fargo or Chase be used by a scammer? And it appeared that when you were addressing someone else, you may have answered it. What is the difference between a phony digital wallet, such as one that someone would give me through Bitcoin, and those by legitimate banks such as Wells Fargo or Chase or et cetera?
Well,
Thank you.
Okay, if you're talking about the technology at the technology level, there's probably not that much different. It's based on what's called blockchain technology, which is and I'm not going to get into what that means, but it's based on that technology and that theory, if you will. Both legitimate and illegitimate digital wallets are based on that same idea. The legitimacy or illegitimacy of it basically is the motives of the people behind it, and the reputations and trustworthiness of the people behind it. So the normal banks, Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, those guys who are playing with cryptocurrency and digital wallets are probably technically using a lot of the same types of technology that the fraudsters are, but they're regulated, right? As a bank,
Okay.
They are regulated by the government, and the government will come down on them like a ton of rocks and put them out of business if they engage in fraud like this. The cryptocurrency guys are totally unregulated. They use some of the same technology for the wallets, but their wallets and their technology is basically not backed by anything, and they control it, so they can take the money away. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes, it makes sense. And I was wondering, was there any FDIC or coverage on a digital wallet by a legitimate bank?
I don't think so. See, that's one of the
Okay.
regulatory issues. The FDIC type coverage and the Federal Reserve type coverage is built around, philosophically, physical banks and physical money. And so it's as my information now is that there is no equivalent of FDIC, and this came from the FTC just the other day. There is no FDIC or similar coverage or insurance for cryptocurrency at all. If you lose money in crypto, it's pretty much gone.
Thanks so much for that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to jump in here also, because my friend that was scammed, he insisted that he had his crypto wallet there. And what they do on the scammers end is they put you off by saying you can't take out more than a certain amount, but that there's been a lot of criminal activity, so they're going to hold you off for a while they investigate, and it's for your own good. And he kept going back and forth and checking his crypto wallet, and it looked like he was making these great gains, but you've got to understand that these people can make a crypto wallet look exactly like any other crypto wallet. It's not hard to do. So even though it looks like it's a real thing, they can make something that's fake, populate it with fake data that's pertinent to their victim. And unless the person wants to take money out, then they just think they're making a small fortune every week. Like this case, it was 400% profit in less than a month, which has never been really done in the history of stock market or anything legitimate like that. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next slide, Dave. Flags for cryptocurrency fraud. Okay. And if you could talk about that, thank you.
Yep. Now, like everything else we talk about as an educated consumer, we want you to be able to see, recognize what we call the red flags, right? The things that should be, if they occur, if you decide to do crypto or any kind of investment or any kind of anything, if things like this start to occur, you ought to get that little voice in the back of your head going, hey, something's wrong here. And then you got to listen to that voice. It's kind of a two-step process, right? Educate yourself to where the red flags make that little voice in your head start screaming at you, don't do this, don't do this. And part two is listening to that voice, which is sometimes hard for people to do. But some of the things you need to look out for fraud in crypto is, as many frauds, if they tell you they're going to give you 400% return on your investment or some sort of guaranteed return, that's a fraud. Those types of investments are, almost non-existent in today's type of market. And if they were, they're not usually available to the little guy. They're available to the big money handlers and the investment bankers. If you are interested in a cryptocurrency and you start asking questions, which you have to do before you put in any money to anybody, ask a lot of questions. And if you're not getting a whole lot of details about what they do with your money, how you get your money out, where the money is stored, how can you check your gains, and can you take money out anytime, or are there fees, blah, blah, blah. If they're really kind of hazy about that stuff, then that's a red flag too. Anytime, just like gift cards, anytime they require you to use crypto for payment for anything, and won't take regular money, won't take credit card, won't take anything like that, run away, because that's a big red flag, just as much as gift cards are. And everybody has heard us talk about gift cards. Our emails and social media is always a place where they contact you, and you always deal with email and online. If the websites look bad, the websites look kind of, like they were done by seventh graders, if there's a lot of misspellings and grammar errors, be very careful. And sometimes if you look at different exchanges, I've talked to victims who said, I looked at 3 different exchanges before I invested, and it was kind of funny that they all looked alike, right? They had different names, but they all looked and functioned exactly the same. Well, that's from a kit, right? So if you see exchange websites or any websites dealing in cryptocurrency that look exactly like others, then they're all frauds. If you get pressure from others, if you're in a relationship or you meet somebody just as a friend on Facebook, or stumble across somebody on Facebook who appears to be having a bunch of money, making a bunch of money, be very, very careful. If they start pressuring you to bring other people in, or, I'm very successful at this, I want to be your mentor, but I got to have other people. Can you bring somebody else in to help, to pool our money? Very, very, very sketchy. Also, anytime you're dealing with anybody and they demand secrecy, don't tell anybody about this. There's an investigation on. The FBI is not going to tell you if there's an investigation on like this and demand you'd be secret about it. If they try to, if it's really the FBI, if it's really DEA or really any kind of government agency of law enforcement, they're going to come see you and make you sign some paperwork that says, I'm not going to tell anybody. So if anybody demands secrecy of what you're doing, not tell anybody, especially if they say, go to this store and put cash in this machine. And if anybody asks you a question, tell them you're doing it to give money to your grandson. That's a big red flag. It's bottom line. If it's too good to be true, it's not. That's just the rule of thumb that we all learned as kids, just about, from somebody. If it's too good to be true or seems too good to be true, then it probably is. Next slide.
Well, Dave, Bradley Johnson was very patient with his questions.
Okay.
He asked if I could read his question. He asked a couple questions, so I'm going to kind of modify them because he asked something that you haven't talked about in your presentation.
Okay.
Can you give a quick description of blockchain, and then I'll ask a second part of the question.
Sure. Blockchain technology is basically a software type of technology that allows you to do a lot of things and explore a lot of relationships together inside a computer much more efficiently than we have in the past. And blockchain technology has been adapted and is still being adapted. I mean, again, it's only 20 years old or so in the market, if you will. Logistics companies are real excited about blockchain technology because they think it promises to revolutionize, like UPS, FedEx, those type of companies, as well as private companies who are shippers and logistics companies think that blockchain technology will help them understand where their problems are in their supply chain, help them make it more efficient and streamlined. So there are some technology underpinnings of cryptocurrency, the blockchain technology, which is really separate from cryptocurrency, that have a lot of legitimate things, medical use. I saw something the other day where blockchain, I mean, again, a lot of people are saying, oh, we think, they're real enthusiastic about blockchain, and they think, oh, we can change this and we can change this and understand this better and this and that. 25 years from now, a good percentage of that will probably have come to absolutely nothing. But people are real enthusiastic about it right now. And so they're talking about different ways. Medical technology is talking about blockchain type of stuff. Financial markets are talking about it. Other types of things are talking about. It's a software relationship model, if you will, without getting into the deep technology stuff, which truthfully, I don't understand some of it. I mean, I'm not an expert in it by any step of the imagination, but the blockchain technology underlies crypto, and it underlies a whole bunch of other legitimate things that are going on.
That was the second part of his question, and you answered it quite well. Is blockchain used for other legitimate purposes besides cryptocurrency? So let's move on. Strat, I saw Sandra Chang had a question. Could you please ask Sandra to come off mute and ask her question?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Sandra.
Oh, okay. Hi. Yeah, I'm actually a peer advocate, so I actually represent a lot of people with mental health disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just curious what you might recommend for people who confront scams in general.
Now, are you talking to people who are the sufferers of this type of issue, or are there caretakers or other mental health professionals?
Both.
All of the above? Okay.
Yes.
As I would tell anybody, be very, very cautious before you do anything with anything to do with cryptocurrency or digital currency in general. It is, to me, the biggest, I don't have anything to do with it personally. I'm kind of penny in digital currency because I don't trust it. I don't think it's, the fact that there's no regulation and there's no backing to it, it's ethereal. And, it's basically out in bits and bytes in the internet. So, I know how quickly that can be changed and go away. So just be very careful about doing anything at all with digital currency. Make sure you go to some place to educate yourself that is legitimate, like an investment counselor of some sort, certified financial investment counselor. There are government agencies, Consumer Products, Commodities Futures Trading Commission has come on real strong that they have some cryptocurrency regulatory need, and they are the regulators along with some others who are fighting about it, but they have a lot of information on cryptocurrency on their website. So go to government agencies, go to well-known and established financial institutions or well-known established financial advisors that you trust and talk to them about it. Don't try to just learn it off the internet, because if you just Google cryptocurrency education, you have no idea who's behind that, what they're saying, what they're pushing, and what their agenda is. So that's a huge area of misinformation is the education part of it, because, the ones that have, bad intentions use that as a vehicle, to eventually come around to, this is why you ought to invest in my exchange, because I can give you a 200% return or whatever. So just, if you want to do it, first of all, don't do it. But if you want to do it, educate yourself with some reputable sources about how it works and what you have to watch out for and some of the pitfalls, as well as how the things function, and use reputable exchanges. Although there's all kinds of problems and concerns about it, there are some exchanges that are huge that are fairly reputable, or comparatively reputable, let's say. So that's what I would make sure is that ask a lot of questions, check out who you're dealing with, and be very, very skeptical. Very skeptical.
Well, thank you, Sandra, for your question. And as Dave said, I hope it's helpful. And Sandra, I hope your presentation goes well tomorrow, and you can incorporate some of what you learned today in your presentation tomorrow. And Strat, do we have any other audience questions that we can ask for Dave?
No questions right now, but I do want to remind folks, please, if you do have a question, simply raise your hand or put your question in chat. Thank you.
Okay, well, I've got a question real quick for Dave before we sign off.
Okay.
And basically, this is one that kind of relates to me and our audience of 60 and over. We know that we get a lot of voice activity from scammers. Crypto historically has been online as far as the scams go. Have you seen voice scammers trying to convince people by phone first to invest in crypto, or is it all online?
Usually the beginning introduction is online, or in some, an email or a friend of a friend or whatever, but it usually happens online. But just like in romance scams, one of the first red flags of the crypto fraud relationship is they move that from Facebook to some other type of way that's more secure to communicate. They move it off of that to Telegram. They move it off to one of the SMS, the texting sites, or they just deal with voice calls. But usually the initial contact is online, or like through an email or something like that, or social media. Social media is the great leveler in this area. So, and a lot of the times they'll combine it. So a lot of the times victims I talk to, it started out with what they thought was a romance. It was a romance scam, or they thought it was a romance. They thought they were, going to find the love of their life. And over time, the love of their life started talking about how much money they were making. And, I want you to make money too, so we can be happily ever after. Here's the exchange I use. Let's go. And I'll teach you how to do this, So, I mean, they're very slick. So they don't, but whatever way they do it, this is increasingly going to become an adjunct or a methodology for the bad guys to get more money. So, however inventive they can be, they're going to turn it into.
In 1 minute, can you say how AI is being used. And AI is artificial intelligence. We're going to have a full 1 hour on it at the end of this month. That'll be the final presentation. But can you talk about how AI and crypto scams are basically coming together, making websites better? You'd said misspellings and grammar and so on and so forth.
Well, AI right now, at least the stuff that we're seeing now, let me give you a caveat from my perspective with AI, is that we say there's not fraud in this area of AI, or there's very little fraud in that area. The problem is that the whole nature of artificial intelligence is, if we are seeing fraud, that may be pretty good and we just don't know it. We're not really dealing with somebody alive. We're not really dealing with a real human being. We're dealing with an AI, but it's really good. And so because when you're an expert in AI, you know that there are AI programs that make it look like you're actually talking to or talking on a screen to a honest to God live person. So having said that caveat, the main area we're seeing it now that we can identify is in, as you said, making sure that a lot of the red flags that we've seen traditionally, the misspellings, the poor grammar, the clearly stuff being written by people who are not English speakers as a native language, all that stuff gets cleaned up in AI. And they can write something now, the generative AI that does that kind of like chat GPT and things like that are, really, really getting good at writing things. You just give it the parameters and they spit it out, and it's indistinguishable from somebody who actually wrote it. The big area
was a great answer. Thank you, Dave.
Okay.
But I want to also say thank you very much to our audience for listening. I hope you absorbed a lot from Dave Marrow. He's a cybersecurity expert. His credentials are just pristine and unprecedented. We're very lucky to have Dave here. So that's great. We have some other cyber chats that are coming up. If you could please, that would help speed getting you through. And you'll see we have the next one's going to be turning the tables on scammers. That's next Monday. Then we're going to do the artificial intelligence scams. So thank you, everybody. I hope you got a lot out of it. And remember, if you get scammed, if someone else gets scammed, if there's an unsuccessful scam, please report it to some kind of agency like the FTC. You can find them online where you can report fraud. FTC.gov is the.
Whoops.
We seem to have lost John there. So apologies for the there you are, John. You're back. We lost your sound and visual there for a second, but I'll hand it back to you.
Yes, so I just want to say thanks for everybody's participation. The questions were great. Sorry you lost me there for a sec, but we definitely appreciate your involvement and your participation. And